should be 3 out of 4.
Okay, so it is on, so if you
Okay,
want to start the meeting.
so this is Jay Rosepepe, and this is the LTAC committee. And we'll just go around the room, if everybody would just say their name, who's present.
Lorraine Olson, this is House Bed and Breakfast.
Keith Washus.
Jack Edwards stays in Porter.
Brandy Rainierson, city clerk, city staff. And then Kathy with the Port of Bremerton is absent.
So we had the presentations last week, and I guess the first question would be, before we move forward, is was there any questions about what we heard, or any observations that anybody would like to share?
I would just like to say that I think we have some amazing organizations in our town that I believe use the LTAC money very wisely, and there's a lot of diversity in terms of the outreach of different folks and the organization's capabilities of carrying out these things. And I think they really are a big part of our tourism plan. And each of them provide a very unique perspective on that.
So with that in mind, we have a budget of 100,000, and I don't know if there's a,
The fund balance is 95,000. I believe, is that what the number was?
and the mayor recommends not allocating more than what was estimated for 2019, which is 100,000. And any fund balance is 95. So basically, it's maintaining the status quo.
So what does the word fund balance mean?
That means they anticipate that January 1st of 2019, after all of the 2018 reimbursements have been claimed, they will start the new year off with a $95,000 balance. And then as the year progresses, as the lodging tax revenue comes in, they estimate an additional 100,000 will come in for the 2019 year.
So we could have as much as $195,000? Okay.
And the recommendation would be that basically that you don't
Dip into that
dip into
95,000
95.
in case, and the comment was to use that more of as reserve, or in case the 100,000 projected revenue does not come in on target.
And it looks
That's
like,
that's almost double though.
and if we look at the last 4 years, it looks like what they've done is maintained a fund balance of almost 1 year.
And so that's money that's just sitting, they're not getting.
That's one way of looking at it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
But that's how the county looks at it when they do they say, we like to use it, not lose it, just technically.
How would they lose it?
They wouldn't, they don't want to carry it over.
So they spend more of their fund balance.
It's-
So there's two, there's the projected revenues and the fund balance.
But there's, like, City of Bremerton there's been years where they've taken maybe 10,000, 15,000 and held over. But they usually will hold over to put them toward next year, because they can't figure out what to do with it. That's undecided.
Because it seems like we've had fewer smaller numbers in fund balance in the years past.
We have.
Like 20,000 and 30,000 and something like that.
Correct, and I think each year it just,
It's been building.
correct.
Okay.
Does this committee have the ability to have a say in that?
As in why it keeps building or not to build?
Or to spend it?
Yes, so there is a resolution that states that the January of the following year, the chair of the lodging tax committee can ask the treasurer what that fund balance is, and then ask the council if they want to open it up again for everybody, past recipients, or what was the other one? Or leave it be. The last couple of years, they haven't done anything with it. I do know that years past, I want to say in 2010, 11, they did have a big chunk of money in there. I want to say about 150,000, 120,000, and they opted to have a an economic development tourism director, I think it was, / city clerk. So that person at the time did both, and then she was able to capture her salary and seek reimbursement from the funds. So that wasn't too successful, or didn't come to the vision of what they thought it was going to come of. So they went away with that, and then I think and then around that same time, there was a projection of a certain amount of revenue, and we actually fell short by quite a bit. And so by the time they caught it, most of the expenditures had already been reimbursed. So the last couple of people that didn't seek their reimbursement, unfortunately, didn't get what they were awarded because of the short funds. So I think because of those two, they've historically just left it alone.
And that makes sense.
So with that being in mind, essentially there's anticipated balance of 195. The mayor's recommendation is not to exceed 100,000. This is, I'm only the facilitator. You know, somebody like to at least start with some type of discussion about how you would like to see this go.
No, I reckon that we use the whiteboard and
Mhm.
put the organizations up there with
Yep.
their, one column for their ask, one column for how the committee may or may not agree on certain allocations. And then, of course, with the
Hopefully there's more for
with the
Hopefully
funds
they're
available
working.
at the bottom, so that we have to work with.
And I'm typing it into Excel so that way when we get numbers, I'm not doing a calculator. It'll be easy for me to adjust, hopefully. Although I'm mouseless and I'm not used to no mouse, so we'll see how it goes.
I just did it in order of how they did it this week.
There's two POPSA grants.
One's POPSA and one's the Sydney. Or did they have two?
They had two.
They had two separate?
So
We should see them as separate.
Okay,
They presented
I
as separate.
think we should allocate a separate,
I'm good with that.
because one could be an allocation of 0, and one could be funded.
That's right.
So let's
Okay,
see.
so would somebody give me the numbers off the sheet,
So here you have to chamber,
chamber, and 30,
Chamber 30,203.
okay.
We have Fathoms,
Huh?
34,500.
Okay,
Mustang,
2,500,
yep.
I got my number right, okay,
Saints, 2,400.
okay, City,
Ferry, 6,500.
yep,
Visit Kitsap, 24,000. And that we included as the nightlife as well.
Because that was all
one
in the
ask.
same.
all the same,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then,
POPSA,
so POPSA, so they had for events, $27,013.
okay,
And then for POPSA tourism,
huh?
marketing, they asked for $10,925.
Okay.
And then Sydney did 5,070, which is, I don't know if you want a total,
I was,
okay?
did
And
I
then
ask for that?
total is $143,111.
143,
111.
111.
The spreadsheet.
Oh,
says-
111.
She,
Sorry.
there was a-
I-
Oh,
Yeah.
that's when you did change that to 24,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
143, 111.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Actually, I should probably do it like. And in the past, everybody's just kind of thrown out their number, and then we do an average. Others have gone with the easiest and say they fully support the request, and then work with what's left and do an average. It's however you guys want to do it.
Well, I'm gonna ask a question
Mhm.
on this one, and it's more of a question is, when we were talking about these last week, and then when I went through them, you know, it's hard to quantify. I don't think anybody quantified very well about who pulls in folks that come into lodging, you know, from out of town, and with the most bang for the buck. And I think that that's kind of the purpose of it, is people that are coming from outside, visiting the city, staying in the city, spending money in the city. And I think that's gonna be tough for almost anybody that gets awarded it. It's because, as you all pointed out, it's not like anybody goes to people and say, give us your address. You know, so we can track you down, you know, on that. But it's an interesting dilemma of says, you know, who's gonna bring more in, so.
And in the past as hoteliers, we had a pretty good bead on who was coming in for what, and who was bringing just day trippers from Seattle, or who were spending money downtown, but necessarily weren't putting heads in beds. I know our discussion was that we really need to quantify who's doing the job of trying to bring people to stay the night, because that's what the lodging tax ultimately is
Right.
for. Not every organization on there does that, but that doesn't mean that they're not deserving in some way or fashion or another. When I look at this, and having done hotels for a number of years, from the hotel standpoint, and as the organizations that pay into the tax or pay the majority of the tax, it's always been my will and testament that the destination marketing organizations are the ones who, that's their job. That's what they do 24 hours, 7 days a week. That's what their websites do. That's what they're made to do. So I usually recommend trying funding them fully, and then going through the other organizations after that. But I always believe that the destination organization, marketing organization, that's all they do. They're not a weekend event. They don't pull in people for 1 or 2 nights. Their job is to try and get people to stay here all year round.
I thought it was an interesting question, and I can't remember who posed it, but kept talking about, have you linked, you know, both the bed and breakfasts and the hotels?
I was asking.
Yeah, okay, and I mean, you know, and it was interesting, everybody's answer to that, because it is and then, so I guess I can step out, I mean, I can give my opinion if nothing else. You know, that part of it, you know, I keep wondering whether print media is going away a little bit of the dinosaur, you know, for the people that are more active in the social media, if that makes sense.
It is.
Yeah.
Hotels, I barely do rack cards anymore.
Yeah.
That's gone away. Now everything's done digitally or online.
Yeah.
And people are searching for hotels via their phones or their tablets, and you know, they're not going to a travel agent anymore, saying, find me a place to stay. So.
But when they get here, I see them holding print material. They pick them up on the ferries, they pick them up in our shops.
They'll come to the city hall and ask for them, and we'll give them
Yeah.
maps.
And Matt said that he's the visitor center, and it gets distributed there. So I think there's a balance, and maybe there's a shift. And maybe people are booking their hotels online, but when they're looking for places to go, I see them looking at what they've collected. And then I share what I have when they're looking for specific places. And then if we can't find anything, then we go online.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the rack cards being the tourism destinations or the shops, or where to send people once they're here. Not once they're on the ferry, they've already decided where they're staying. They're not going to say, I'm not really sure what, you know.
Yeah.
Let me look at the rack cards. They usually already know.
Well, and when you get down to it, the destination organizations, and I think when you say that, you mean like Visit Kitsap or the Chamber, they can no more prove that people are staying in hotels than anybody else. It's a even playing field there about who can claim, you know, who's having, and so that's why I think it's a collective issue, not just
I don't see it as who's a
one.
claim, I see it whose job is it, and how much time do they spend doing it, and what's the organization? So Visit Kitsap, their only goal is to put heads in beds. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. They don't put on events. They don't. They're not like just for onesie twosie weekenders. Their job is to put in hotels throughout Kitsap County all year round.
I guess that's not my impression of what they do.
Yeah,
They're
that's what they
to
do, yeah.
bring tourists here,
Yes.
whether they stay or.
But they're interlinked, because Visit Kitsap, yeah, their job is to put people in beds, but without the events, they don't have a job. They have to have the events to be.
Oh, they need to
able
provide something to promote,
Yeah.
to get people here.
Right.
Someone's not gonna usually just come here because they say, oh, come to beautiful Port Orchard. I might, but, but other people want something, a reason to be drawn here. But they also are promoting the wedding venues and like, hey, if you live outside the area, come to Port Orchard for a wedding. They've got some great wedding venues and they're more affordable than Seattle. So, and that's not just a weekend event. Or they're saying, I've always promoted, hey, you know, military unions, you know, family unions, hey, we have and sports, you know, anything, outdoor sports and outdoor recreation, from kayaking to bicycling. So they promote all that too. They just
Yeah.
don't promote the weekend events. The chamber's mission isn't to put heads in beds. The chamber's mission is to promote economic vitality throughout the community through business to business, you know, typically. But they do have a visitor center. Most chambers do. You know, they do talk to people coming into town.
Let me back up for a second. Is everybody comfortable with the $100,000 as the budget? Somebody like to make a recommendation to up it. I won't go with lower it, but, or do you want to do, and I'll ask if this has been done before, of saying, hey, well, here's our $100,000 look, and we would recommend going to this, and that would be our look. Or is it, no, it's up to the chair to say, hey, you know, this is what we did, we'd recommend in January or so, re-looking at this, we feel that 95,000 in the hopper in reserves is too much, we could do more.
So they haven't given the council two proposals,
No.
which is kind of what you're
Yeah, to a
alluding
certain
to,
degree, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But they have opted to either have a reserve or not have a reserve because the fund balance was healthy.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what they've done in the past. They haven't really said, you know, here's our two options. I can say that last year's recommendation, they spent it, the full amount, brought it to the council, and the council, rather than decrease anybody, they increased it and shifted some funds around.
Mhm.
So they might have decreased, but they shifted some funds around and actually used some of 2018 funds for 2017's allocations type of thing. So they've shifted it that way, but you know, if you go in and say, I want to do 120,000, maybe you guys get down to that point and it's just 5,000, do it. And then, you know, and then it's up to the council to whether they want to cut somebody by 5,000. But I don't,
Okay,
that's
I'm
that's
just
for the
asking
committee
because
to
I
make
think
the
that
decision.
to his area, but if that happens, the council could ask us to come back and reconvene.
Correct.
to-
They could.
And fix that last 5,000. so to
Correct.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
because that wasn't the
it was
original
just-
task of the
right.
committee.
Yeah, so I'm just asking a question. So if everybody's comfortable with the 100,000, then we'll stay
I
with
think
the
that
budget.
too.
Okay, what?
But I know you can't give a recommendation, but you can. And
I can.
you know, I mean, we should just whittle to the numbers first and see what happens.
Okay.
Then we can ask that question.
I'd like to answer your question. And I'd like to see us increase it. But I also want us, if that's what we end up doing at the end, I also want us to present good justification why we did that, which in the short would be that there's a history of not spending the fund balance to build it up, and we absolutely respect that. But now it's up to $95,000, and we've got some really well-meaning programs that are doing tourism, and they're all part of this system, and deserve consideration of more. So I would like to suggest we go up to 125,000. That's a very small part of that 95,000.
Do we have to agree?
Yeah, I'm.
I guess I would second that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I wanted to go more, but
Oh, that's a sizable chunk of change,
Yeah.
just to let you know.
baby steps.
And it still leaves a large reserve for them.
Yeah.
Very
down to
large, the
70,
largest
yeah.
we've ever had.
Question to the clerk, do you send out checks monthly? Or if it's a small amount, do you pay those immediately?
So it's a reimbursement,
Okay.
so they have all year round, they have all year to seek their reimbursement.
Okay.
Yes, so once they've had a claim or an invoice, they pay it, they can seek reimbursement right away.
Okay. So
And
some
we-
of the big, like a chamber, or because it gets that, they can get theirs all in one lump sum if they submit the invoice? Or are they typically pushed out month to month?
They have been doing quarterly.
Okay.
No, I take that back, month to month. They switch it month to month and some do quarterly, so, but for the most part, most of the organizations really don't seek reimbursement until the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
It's all different.
And then I also just want to say up front, before I forget, I'm putting myself big notes here, but I don't think I can say any comments about the Sydney Museum because I'm on the board, right?
You're a board member?
Yes.
Yeah, correct. So same with you for the Saints. So if you guys want to talk about the Saints and what you believe, if you want to do that last or first, it's up to you, or in the middle. And then same thing with Sydney. If once you guys get to that deliberation part of it, they just need to excuse themselves from the conversation.
From the table or just the conversation?
In the past, we have removed themselves. They have removed themselves, and then I think once or twice they have just.
I'd be fine with
Refuse.
people staying in the room.
But just
We're gonna
not-
see the numbers anyway, it's not like this is gonna be a surprise.
Personally, I'd like to get that out of the way up front, that way, and just, it's done, it's over, okay, let's move on.
Get the two birds out of the way there.
So what I heard was, we're gonna go in with 125,000 recommendation, we're not gonna do two 100,000 scenario and 125. We think we can lower the fund balance, we have good organizations that we wanna support, and it still leaves a healthy fund balance. So we're
And
gonna
the largest fund balance we've ever had.
Well, we had 95
Well-
going into this year.
I know,
I mean,
but
where's that sheet? It looked
but I'm
like,
saying,
Was-
in the past, it was really low.
Well,
Now it's up.
actually, the last several years, it's been above 75,000.
Begin fund balance, 2015
Oh,
was
excuse me,
50,000.
Yeah.
2016 was 53,000. 2017 was 84,000. Actuals year to date is 106,000. So that's just what we have received
But it's
so far.
fine. I mean, it's, just,
But it's been building.
It's been
and-
building, yeah.
And we haven't been using it.
and I'm fine with that. I just wanted to, just keep narrowing our focus down so we know what the scenarios are. So I got a magic marker, or not a magic marker, dry erase it. So anybody like to start?
I'd like to start with, you had mentioned the Saints, but this is just coincidental. Both the Saints and the Mustang Club, they ask for so little every year, and they're each, the one-day events, they have a huge draw. And I would like to recommend that those two stay at what their ask is, because it's a very small amount.
And I was gonna agree with that. They're not asking for a lot. I'm a fan of both events. I've been to both.
They're pretty amazing events.
Any comments on the Mustang Club?
I agree with them with the club. I think they should be funded fully.
Cool.
No, we hate Mustangs.
I want to let you know that this is on record and it's accessible by folks. All right, so I'm just keeping a running balance here.
Yeah. And I always.
And I'm doing the same thing.
Okay,
But if
good.
it's, double check, triple check, would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I always recommend doing visit kits out to the full amount. So as a hotelier, that's my most important
organization besides our national brand that promotes us in the region.
And I disagree with that
That's-
respectfully.
And so what I will offer at this time is, we, in the past, again, probably 2009, 10, 11-ish, historically Visit Kitsap had always been fully funded. I understand it's a different management now,
It's the
to the
same.
point, yeah, to the point that the council actually removed and pulled the funding altogether from them for a few years. And then now that the new director, although she's been there for quite a while, has, I think, gained some of that confidence back to the council. So that's just the history there, that we've always fully funded, and then we didn't, and then now we're doing some and others, so that's my 2 cents.
Okay, part of mine was, there's something I wanted to throw in there, just bear with me for a second. Please, apologize, I was looking for, what was their percent of their budget? And it's, overall budget's about 2.5% of their budget. And the only reason I was looking for that figure was just the fact that, how small a component we are, of that. So that was my 2 cents.
Well, generally what happens is each municipality gets the amount of marketing in relation to the dollars that they give in.
Right.
I mean, obviously, when the county gives them $300,000, county says, we want that value that we just gave you in that, so, and the county only has 2 hotels that pay into that fund. The Silverdale Beach and the Oxford, well, there's a couple others, but they're small. Those 2 hotels make up 90% of the balance. So when people go in front of that fund and they don't realize that it's only those 2 hotels that need to be promoted the most. And they have the chamber that promotes them and all that other stuff. So I don't think it's a big ask. And I like to see Port Orchard get more value. I think Port Orchard it just doesn't see the promotion that it has, or the potential that's there. So, and we've talked about doing the nightlife and kicking that up, and really promoting that, because I think Port Orchard has a great nightlife scene. That's all I do every weekend is find the light.
It's improving.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I agree with you. I mean, the Visit Kitsap is a really key organization for reaching out. I think they do, an amazing job. And I thank you so much for that percentage. I somewhere misplaced my sheet because I had those percentages down too. But Visit Kitsap has a much larger budget, and this being the smaller amount, and then in years past, they're asking almost double of what we funded them in the past. And in years past, it's been hard for the director to really separate out how Port Orchard benefits were included more in a lot of their literature. And I just think there's wiggle room in their budget. I don't know what the wiggle room is, but I would only object to just making a decision right now to fully fund them. I'd like to see they be a part of the group where we make reductions in their allocation.
Compared to everybody else, they have the much better, broader, and stronger reach. So we've always recommended in the past, and not this board committee, that all these organizations work with them. And the organizations that did work with them found out, oh my gosh, they have a much better reach than we ever dreamed of getting the word out about our events. So they're kind of something we in the past have pushed organizations to help. Do they work with every organization? No, they don't. Not everyone's going to get a fair shake or a fair share.
And I don't think that's gonna change if we reduce their budget, because
I'm just a
lot of
strong
folks-
proponent that the majority of lodging tax funds for anybody should always go to the destination marketing organization. I don't care if you're Jefferson, Clallam, Seattle. Usually Seattle does. But usually 90% of lodging tax goes to Visit Seattle. That's just my thing. 'Cause sometimes the weekend events are great, but they just bring in people for 1 or 2 nights. They're giving them a really, compared to the percentage, and look at the Chamber's ask. And then look at Phelan's ask.
Well, the chamber just focuses on South
Yeah.
Kitsap. We get more bang for our buck with the chamber than we do.
The Chamber doesn't put heads in beds, that's not their job.
But Visit Kitsap can't guarantee that it sets in beds either.
I can tell you that all the hotels in the county benefited from an increase in leisure travel and seen a drop in the government that we were so dependent on for so many years. And a lot of the hoteliers accredit that to the Visit Kitsap's marketing, which means we can increase our rates because now we're not dependent on a $93 per diem. We can charge 100. I mean, this summer we were charging $140 for a little tiny Port Orchard hotel. Amazing.
Wow, yeah.
So,
I agree with you on what you're saying. The only thing that was bothering me was, but looking back at from their presentation, does the Visit Kitsap warrant a double in the budget? And it does look like they're promoting an awful lot of stuff. I mean, and they have stepped up from what they promoted in the past. So I think they do warrant an increase over what they had, but double is, I don't know.
So somebody like to, I mean, we have a number of fully funded.
I'm trying to remember what the other city, what the other municipalities were funding them at. I know Port Orchard gave them 35,000. I'm sorry, Bremerton gave them 35,000. Gig Harbor gives them money. I forgot what it is, but the Gig Harbor doesn't get a ton of. It's called because it's Visit Kitsap Peninsula, and Gig Harbor's Pierce County. But I think they give them 10. Paulsbo gives them. Rainbow gives them about 10,000. Paulsbo gives them, I think, 20-ish.
So would you like to keep it at 24?
I want to keep it.
Okay, and I'm just gonna put different things up. Someone asked for a number from you too, you know. What can you?
I would say, well, 24, 12, like 18. Basically half of the increase of what they're.
I'll go with that.
Okay,
Seems
so I'm just gonna keep two proposals up, and we'll go to a third one, and we'll keep rolling.
Yeah, we can keep going back to all
Yeah.
those. All these will be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we may get to something that does that. Okay, would somebody like to hit, for lack of better words, I don't mean hit, but another group?
The city request for the ferry, I think, is another really super critical to getting people over here. I know my guests use the ferry, the foot ferry a lot, and it's really critical that I would love to see it increase, and I know we can't do that here, but what happens if we keep changing the schedules every year, people don't know when it's running or not running, and that accounts for the low ridership. And so if our effort is to maintain this so we can continue to build that trust in that system, it's really key to our downtown thriving in the summertime.
And Jack, you had mentioned that you had a concern about funding
I'm usually not a fan of funding government subsidized.
subsidy, so.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up because we might as well have all the opinion. I think the ask was lower for the city this year than in the past.
I
Yes.
believe it was 75,
Yeah, it's lower.
Yeah, you asked for 8,000 last year.
8,000 last year, 9,500 the year before, 9,000 before the year before that.
And this was kind of based on actuals, what we saw this year, where we had actually I hate to use surplus, but we didn't expend as much as what we thought. You know.
What was the city's portion, and was Bremerton matching it?
yes.
Okay.
City of Bremerton and the City of Port Orchard split it 50-50 for 2018, and the actual invoice for both jurisdictions was $6,050-ish. So it was a little over 6,000. And then we brought in, I want to say a little over 6,000 in revenue.
What's the,
So it's the $2,
Right, each way.
yeah, so it's
knowing my
offset.
position and your position, what's the city's position on that? As far as how it relates to tourism?
I think that they see it as a benefit for getting people here during the summer months, and a perfect, the one example I'll give is the Library Festival in conjunction with the Taste of Port Orchard, where you can anecdotally, visibly see more people coming over than are leaving, at the end of the day. So I think they see a bang for the buck, and the fact that it runs in the evening also helps, with the tourism side. Not necessarily, I was going to say butts in the bed, but I need to be careful. But that type of, again, when we talk about that, that is one thing for us. That is why where the lodging tax comes from.
So if you said if Bremerton matches Port Orchard's contribution, is this considered part of Port Orchard's contribution as well?
Yes.
This is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
this is, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Port Orchard isn't pulling it out of a general fund. You're relying on the lodging tax.
Correct.
So if it doesn't get funded, there is a possibility those services
We pull that in.
will suffer.
Suffer or come out from the general fund.
Okay. What's the, oh, you guys are doing budget allocations coming up soon.
I don't see any problem with funding them for the full 65.
I'm asking, do we want to put that in both? Do we want to hold it in one or another?
I've already given my
I'll fund it, okay.
Fully funded.
So do you want to make a cut to that, or?
No, because I understand the importance, even though it's a government agency that's usually supported by tax dollars. What I don't like to see is I don't like to see marketing, dollars are spent for marketing that are spent on operations and
Right.
that type of thing. But I also understand the importance. This one's a little different. This isn't a tourism facility that's looking to pay for their staffing. It's trying to bring people over here to spend money.
All right, which one would you like to tackle next?
So should we do the PMB
Why don't we do the big one, Fathoms?
Fathoms? I'm not sure what that other activities number is that they're talking about.
And they're funding 15 events.
But one of their biggest asks for this year is, probably, I don't see the number right here, but I think somewhere in there, I think it's like 25,000 for a truck.
Maybe that's what that number is. They did come to the county and ask for money for the truck, and the county approved.
So you get all the cities together in one room?
See if they time it. The float truck was 10, looks like it was
So
10,000.
10,000.
But I know they wanted a new one versus they said keeping the old one running was a
Wasn't
chore.
cost effective.
Right. And that's what tows all the flow. It's the revenue, that's expensive. Well, on the plus side, what I like about the Fathoms is they don't just have summertime events only, they have other events that are meant to draw people in some of the off-season times of the year. But when you look at what they're spending on the marketing side is only about $8,500. So they put 25,000 as they're budgeting for other, but they didn't really explain the other.
Well, that was not the spreadsheet
I'm
there.
not sure. That's 3,600. 65 for marketing.
So they got, so there are others, is
Everything
the
else.
concerts and
Yeah.
we have to be everything
Yeah,
else.
so it's putting on the events.
They've been getting,
Minus the 1,000 for the general expenses, so that's what that is. So it's only 7 numbers, the float, the truck, the concerts, and the fireworks, that's what they're asking for.
they've been getting around, it's been going up gradually. It'd be a huge jump to go up to 34,000, you know, on that.
Last year they asked for 30 and got 20, or 21.
21?
Yeah, year before that they asked for 24 and got 22.
I'm just a little, how much was the truck in this
It
grant?
was 10,000.
10,000. I've been thinking about that, and I really sympathize with the need of the truck, but the truck is specifically to pull a float,
Mhm.
and I understand, and I think it's awesome that they take the float all over. But is this the right funding to replace a truck? And I could totally be convinced otherwise, but I just wonder if maybe we, and probably the 10,000 is only part of the truck. I don't know how much the truck is gonna cost.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they have other ideas of where they could get funding for that truck or, but that's sort of been just rolling around in my head, this idea about funding the purchase of a truck. But it's really core to what they do, you know, in terms of the float.
Well, if you take the 10,000 out for the truck, you're still giving them more money left than they got last year.
Well, I'm not saying we don't lower it even
Right,
more.
right.
I was just sharing that part about the truck.
I think when the county was doing their allocations, they budgeted for their truck.
And I'm thinking that that's where the big jump is in the truck purchase, because it's a one-time deal.
I throw a number out there of around 24.
I
22,
just-
24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, you gotta learn how to cut me off, I gotta take visual signals, what I can say and can't say. But, you know, part of me, and I really like what they do because they support a lot of great things, but the events that they put on in the city is really almost a single time of year event. You know, they support a lot of events, you know, it's princesses and stuff, but their event that they drive people to is really the, you know, 4th of July, fireworks and the parade.
I thought their events started in March and ended in November,
But it's,
according to their schedule.
right, it is, that they go to, you know,
No, that
promotion.
they're also,
Well,
am I wrong in that?
I know, they put on in their paperwork they have.
Did I read that
The worst.
wrong?
They put on Concerts by the Bay every.
They
every
do
week.
concerts, that's
there.
good, yeah.
And then the Easter egg hunt in April,
Some of these events I've never heard of. I've never heard of the Easter egg hunt.
Seagull's Flat, and
I've never heard of the Civil War
May.
reenactment.
Yeah, I heard that one.
then the Breakfast with Santa in November.
Well, these are ones they all support, I believe,
Oh, okay.
you know.
So they sponsor?
Well,
They're not putting them on per se.
I don't think I think they put them on conjunction.
Okay. They're not the
Well,
sole
I don't think they're the sole,
organization
yeah.
putting
Yeah.
those on.
But they must be
Yeah, 'cause
part
see,
of
this one
the,
is
they must
like
contribute
right,
funds.
in conjunction with
Do
us.
we know for sure? mean,
I don't know.
See,
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
wanna make a
That's fine.
decision
Yeah.
based on,
Yeah.
we think, you know.
Well, they publicize, go ahead, jump in.
So, once upon a time, I did serve on the board
Oh,
as a
good.
treasurer for Fathoms of Fun.
Sweet.
Good, then you can help.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so those are all of their events that they actually put on. Some of the events are for Fathoms as a whole, and some of the events are a fundraiser for the Royalty Court. So,
So it's all Fathom sponsors?
it's
or-
Fathom sponsored, some of it's for
That was
Fathoms General
incorrect. I
Fund, and some of
apologize.
it's for the Royal Court.
Thank you.
And then the Easter egg hunt, that's been around for years that they bring a stuffed animal to. Everybody, they get donations, but anyway, that's always done at the county park, so, not a city park.
And
So
get
that's
on
what
the
I
run.
know.
Like you have time to do all these things.
Okay. So, does somebody want to put a number at least so we can put it?
I think you suggested something.
I said 22, 24.
That sounds good.
Which one?
Start at 24 if we have to,
Okay.
if we have to put it down.
Okay, thanks. We'll put those in both sections.
Sure. If everyone's in agreement on that, so if someone has something different.
Okay.
I still want to take a look at the POBSA.
The what?
The POBSA.
Okay.
Their ideas.
Go for it.
Input, well, I want to see.
Which one? We have two.
I'm gonna have
We
them
have
pull out
two.
the,
Which one do you want to look at first?
the application.
Here, I have.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right there.
That way, if he wants to look at it, you can look at it.
Which one first?
Yeah, it's, it's the big one.
Events, right? Is that right? Yeah, marketing.
Yep.
That's marketing. Events here.
So we're looking at the $27,000 ask.
Yeah. Well, I always think that organizations should use their operations money from their fundraising and their volunteers and sponsorships. But when it comes to asking for the tourism, they're asking for about 15,000 to actually do the marketing and tourism, and I'm okay with that number.
And the city had budgeted them in the, in essence, for the marketing and events. Had budgeted them somewhere between, anywhere from, looks like 13,000 to 17,000. You know, once we came out of the recession, looking at that from 14 to 15 to 18. It's interesting that people have combined the ask, so it makes it a little bit tougher to separate from the spreadsheet.
The big number is for their events, right? So Taste of Port Orchards.
Yes,
Food Bash.
specifically for each event.
So,
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events.
yeah, when so for marketing, I'm okay with the 15,000 they asked for.
I thought they asked for 27.
So I'm doing the breakdown. So the operations, they asked
Oh,
for 12, which I'm disinclined to get marketing dollars for.
But those costs are intertwined in each of the events. There's on their budget spreadsheet, they have a budget detail of each event.
So when
And
we,
so that's what we would be doing is sort of piecemealing their system here of promoting events. And each event has maybe a different audience.
but we don't, when they put in for reimbursement, we're not telling them what event this goes to, we're just giving them funds for general funds against their request. That's a question, sorry.
So there has been in the past where the council or committee says that they agree with the application or the ask, with an exception of, for one year, they didn't believe that Ladies Night Out was an event to attract tourists. It was more of a local event, so they put that caveat that, you know, they're minusing that amount. And then one year, the council actually came back and said, hey, if you do have the antique rodeo show, I can't remember what it was, antique show, then, because it was still in planning stage, if they were gonna have it or not, and they said, okay, if you do have it, then you have an additional $2,000 more for reimbursement only on that event. So those are the two that I'm familiar with that they've done in the past.
So in essence, on the breakdown, we can be specific on that if we lessen the dollars or want to, I'm
Yes,
looking for the right word, but, you know, target where
yeah.
the money's to be spent.
But I would also caution you that if, you know, that you clearly justify the reason why, because if it's very similar to another organization, then you have this
Right.
clash. So if it's very distinct, then absolutely,
Yeah.
you guys have that threshold or that authority to do so.
But
But
if-
in general,
Sorry.
for Fathoms of Fun, when you say we're going to give them 24,000, in general, as long as it meets their application, what they've identified what they're going to use the funds for, and RCW, then I don't sit there and look at their budget and say, okay, they, you know, asked 10,000 for the truck. Oh, they can't submit for, you know, 11,000. They can only do 10,000. There are some where I do watch it for the chamber, like they do Seagull Calling Festival for 2,000 and then Event Center for 10,000. I really hold them a little bit more accountable because they've identified what they're going to use, and if they, you know, they ask for 2,400 and all of a sudden they're asking for reimbursement of 7,500.
Right.
That wasn't the pitch to committee. That wasn't the recommendation and the intent
It's
of the
outside of
committee.
that line item.
Yeah, a couple $100.
Right.
You know, you can't really truly know what the actual cost of the event a year in advance are going to be, and so I do give them that leniency.
In essence, what I'm hearing your recommendation is say is we should put the amount in, and not necessarily say where it's going toward.
Unless there's a specific
Unless-
concrete
Right.
reason behind it.
And leave it to them to adjust their
Exactly.
budgets accordingly.
For example, the truck conversation was a great example as to how you can distinguish that.
Right. So, does anybody on the $27,013 for Portage Bay Street Association would like to give a number? Jack, you had said 15.
I'm 15, but I'm kind of doing the total, yeah, 15.
Does anybody would like to propose a second number?
I was gonna say 18, but it's close to his 15, so.
We can.
I'd like to say 22. Their events are amazing. And again, they're all throughout the year.
I'm just going.
Okay, gotcha. Mhm.
Okay.
High and low.
Okay.
For their second ask, someone can remind me what exactly was the specifics
I think you gave the second
on
one.
that one? Is it for the website and Facebook? And I think they said that some of that money was gonna be put toward advertising like in Destination Washington. So some tourism related.
Yeah, they've just got the whole 10,000 for marketing.
So I think that is the Explore Port Orchard component.
Explore.
Or it's the co-op marketing of multiple organizations coming together to put their more dollars for more advertising, I think is what, I believe that's what that is. Oh no, that's the chamber.
Yep.
Never mind, that's the chamber that does that.
You have the second one there, what is it? I thought I gave you both of them.
Yeah, so.
Okay, what's,
So it looks like they talked about advertising in the county it's more about advertising, so.
Okay.
Website, Facebook, advertising in the county register, the antique shopping, so these kind of regional
right.
periodicals, and then spending ads like in Destination Washington, and that, which is a tourism.
Yes,
Tourism.
not related to the Explore Port Orchard. This is in addition
Right,
to.
this is separate,
Gotcha,
yeah.
I got them mixed up.
So it's when they're looking for spending money that actually is for marketing, I don't mind
spending or giving him a close to ask, so I'd probably say 10,000.
But they're, yeah, and exactly, and they are reaching areas that aren't being reached by other places either. So they're filling sort of a need that isn't filled by Visit Kitsap or the Chamber by going to the antique shopping, reaching out, because that's a lot of what we have in downtown is our repurposing stores.
Okay, so I heard 10. Everybody's good with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be a sizable increase from how they've gone before. I might use some new markers later.
I think they're on
So that
the
from lodging tax money?
verge.
Yeah. I need my own. Okay.
And when we do the Sydney Museum, it's all part of that too.
It's separate.
Well, it's separate, but came in the same grouping kind of thing.
But it's a totally separate person.
Oh, no, I realize that, I'm just saying.
Very similar in the, for the basically marketing and promotion. And they, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna participate in this conversation, but I'm just giving you a fact, a budget fact, that there's a difference between the ask of 143,111 and our sort of new bottom line, 125, is 18,111, and we've already captured 17,425 just in the reductions we've made so far. So that's just a note. So we don't have far to go to reach that 18,000,
125.
is what I'm saying.
No,
Right.
understand.
Okay.
It looks like in past, they've funded it at about the $5,000 level, on that. And it was a little bit less last year, but in previous years before that, it's run between the 44 and 6,000 asks. So,
Is there advertising completely separate from the Downtown Association? So some of the magazines, they want to go.
Can I answer that question?
Sure, oh yeah,
It's
are similar.
It's totally separate.
Okay.
It's reaching out to the arts and the cultural. It's, again, a totally different
Okay,
population.
because Downtown Association says they want to advertise in the county register. The Sydney Museum says they want to advertise in the county register. I'm wondering if there's a combination of efforts possible, or if it's two separate advertising and two separate
It's two separate
messages.
purposes,
yes.
Two separate messages, yeah. Because the museum and the art exhibits.
yeah, I think they see themselves as a separate entity on that.
And all their money's going to tourism and marketing. So,
I don't see a problem funding them fully on that one.
Okay.
you can put in the full amount. Oh, what's that make a difference at now?
Getting close.
What
We were still at, whatever, I didn't do what was left, but no, there's not much left.
Okay.
So according to my numbers, if you take all of the highest, okay, numbers, you've already allocated 96,470.
So
A
125.
difference of 28,530 is left, if you take the highest and you go up to 125,000. So again, that's 24,000 for Visit Kids,
Plus
that's
the 22.
22,000 for
22
POBSA.
for POBSA.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna kind of switch this right here, if that's okay. That's 15. So. make one the highest and the lowest,
and then 22.
22.
Yeah, so that, the total on the first column
Okay,
is
gotcha.
96,470,
And right now we're at 96,
470.
okay.
And then the second column is going to be
You're right without a mouse.
83,470,
83,
470.
470, okay.
So it's 18, 15, and then let me just double check the rest of, because those are the only two differences, right? Yep.
So,
Which would be a balance of $41,530 to get you to the 125.
On the first column or second column?
Second.
Okay, what about the first?
what,
The balance would be,
96, 470. The
Be-
balance is 28,530.
Yep.
Okay. Give the chamber 28,530. Well, we didn't really discuss that, that's kind of
That's
unfair.
pretty-
That's unfair.
But
I
that's
wanna put
really
it up
close
there.
to their ask,
You
can
though.
close to their
I
ask.
don't think anybody would complain about that.
So.
and that is the high, so that is,
So that equals 125.
mhm. So that's the high on the other two, and then that, so.
So right now, this stands at 125.
Mhm.
And what's the second one stand at there?
So that one would be,
I can do some middle math here. So that's minus 6, 7, 13,000. So that would be 112.
28,530. 112, yeah, so you would have 13,000 remainder in the second column that you would, should you want to go up to the 125,000.
But we tentatively agreed on the 125, correct?
Yes.
So it is okay to,
Yeah.
for us to go to that amount?
Yes, we can
Okay.
propose it. The council may
Yeah, council may-
change it.
okay.
What we're saying
Okay.
is that, you know, as Lorraine said about the fund balance, you know, it's been very high, and we feel that you know, the asks are legitimate, and they return the bang for the buck to the community. Is that an accurate way of stating
It
it?
is, and the other thing I wanted to add is nobody put in the in-kind hours that go into this. And I know we're just talking about money, but each of these organizations put in endless and endless hours of in-kind. They're contributing out of their hearts because they love Port Orchard and they believe in tourism. And, you know, that's not a big part of the conversation, but I think it should be part of it. It's all volunteer, actually, just about. I don't know, Visit Kitsap, maybe we're paying part of somebody's salary, and I don't know.
Same with the chamber.
I don't know, the chamber,
Most all these
but it's
are-
worth it, because they're, you know, that's their job, is the, you know, the tourism staff.
But right, most of these organizations are pretty much volunteer.
Oh, yeah.
Without any
Which-
pay.
Yeah,
without
Which
any
is
pay.
an amazing, this is our I think this is our Port Orchard tourism plan. I did this little sort of quick study, and, you know, are we looking at all these little independent operations, which is, I think, how the city council looks at it? Or can we start looking this as a system of our visitor, of our tourism? And this is a really solid system.
So let me ask a question. I'm not looking at the second column anymore, because we're at 125. So since I'll eat a little bit of humble crow here, and it was done nicely, is do we want to increase any more on the fathoms because of the number of events that they have and the promotion they do throughout the county?
I'd love to.
But where, the follow-on question is,
Yeah.
where would you take it from? And that to me is, you know, the balancing on Visit Kitsap, you know, which is the one where there's kind of.
Or the POBSA.
Or POBS.
Who's combined is getting 32. That's a big chunk of change out of that 100,000, that's 30%.
Who's that?
I would,
POBSA.
Oh, they're getting 25,000.
Combined.
Oh, I'm sorry, 32.
Combined.
I'm sorry.
But we gotta look at those, they're totally separate asks. I would love to see Visit Kitsap reduced.
I wouldn't.
So we could increase fathoms.
I'd rather see POBSA take the 15 and the 10 and go to 25 and up fathoms from there.
split the difference on both of them?
Possibly. Yeah,
If you want to increase fathoms.
I'll play a devil's advocate.
Sure.
Is There's 2 hotels in Port Orchard that pay the majority of this tax.
Mhm.
And the hotel I run doesn't see much out of these events because I'm not a down hotel. I'm more of the redheaded stepchild off the side of the freeway. So do any of them really, really benefit me? Not a ton, but I'm a supporter of all of them. I'm a fan of all of them. I'm a Port Orchard resident. I love the town. Where I get most of my bang for the buck is going to be Visit Kitsap. And I'm a chamber member and
Yeah.
a supporter of the chamber.
Keith?
Because there's no one out there who's really promoting the outdoor recreation. Yeah, and so that some of us depend on from the paddling and the bicycling and the mountain bike. But I kind of also like where Fathom's their allocation is.
I wouldn't mind allocating Fathoms a little bit more, but just trying to figure out where to get it from. 'Cause Fathoms does do an awful lot. They have a lot of events that bring a lot of people in.
Randy?
Hmm?
I'm just asking for commentary, not on the vote side. You have the historical knowledge. Hence your comment about where's Fred?
Well, thank you. I think the history is really important.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, refer to up the Fathoms number, what number would someone like to see that go up to from 24?
I'd like to see it go up to 28.
Can I just throw something out?
Yeah, let the chair
Yeah.
throw a scenario out. Possible. I can agree with that.
Yeah,
And I would love to see the 4 come out of Visit Kitsap because we're doubling what we've paid them in the past. That's just my comment, but the majority rules.
Can you live with it? I'll go with consensus.
Not really, but
Okay.
I'll leave this room supporting it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Gentlemen?
yeah, I can go with that.
So, this is pretty much where we're at for the evening, unless anybody sees anything else they would like to discuss. Because now I want to ask Randy the process where we go from here. By that I mean, it's presented to the board, to the council, excuse me. I said the school board last night, so my brain's still focused on that. And then they can either take it, change it, or send it back. Is that what I'm hearing?
So yes, they can accept the allocations. They can they can accept it as is, or they can reject it with their comments and remand it back to the committee. Once they remand it back to the committee with their comments or thoughts for reallocation, then the committee could meet. Keep in mind that if the committee does not meet and bring back another recommendation to the council can act as long as it's been 45 days since the original recommendation to them. And that's pretty much what happened last year. They had some recommendations, remanded it back to the committee. The committee, based on the time constraint, wasn't able to meet before the budget was passed. So at the beginning of the year, when the 45 days met, council adopted the recommendations that they did, and that's where they took a little bit from the next year and applied it to the current year that they were applying for. And so left this year a little bit short than last year. So that's what they did there. So as far as procedure-wise, this will actually go before the council on Tuesday night. The work study session where we had planned is really full. And so the regular business meeting is pretty light. And so I've been directed to add this recommendation onto the council packet. In the past, it has been beneficial, and in the past, it hasn't been beneficial for committee members to come in and support their decision to the council. And I've seen it both ways, where somebody comes in and talks about why they recommended this way to the board, or excuse me, to the council, and others, committee meetings they've just been there in the audience, and if the council had questions, they answered them. So it's pretty much up to the committee if you want to show presence there and the reason why. I will do up the notes from last week's meeting, just hitting the highlights of what the presenters asked for, the reason why. So that'll be in one memo that the council will get, and then tonight's summary will be in a minutes form to them to. And again, it's just the highlights of the comments as to reason why you voted, you recommended one way or the other, will be presented to the council as well for them to take into consideration as to how you guys went down this path.
When will the audio be posted?
It should sometime tomorrow.
Okay. No, I just wanted to listen to it, one more time, so when, if somebody asks me a question, I at least have thoughts and the comments back.
Yeah, it should be up by the end of today, tomorrow. I'll give it to staff. They do what they do, and then it should be up on the website sometime tomorrow,
Cool.
late tomorrow.
So just to clarify, this doesn't go to a study session first. It's going to go right to general council.
Correct. Yeah, and so if the council decides to accept the committee's recommendation as a whole, then at the October, I believe, 25th council meeting, I'll bring forth a resolution that basically, or I don't know if I'll do a resolution or if it'll be a staff report for them to take formal action or a motion accepting the committee's recommendation, because that motion or acceptance will then be a document that the finance director can implement in the budget and start allocating it that way. That's all that really is.
And if I'm correct, I would talk about the council they can go through individual allocations. They can't recommend a deduction, but they can strike one if they so choose.
There's been a difference in opinions, meaning that they can accept it or deny it. That's all they can do.
Okay.
However, there is some change on that from MSRC that says they can make a recommendation. They just have to give their recommendation back to the LTAC committee to have that discussion before they can take final action. So I think that's the
committee can agree or disagree.
correct.
So.
Correct.
Okay. Any final thoughts by anybody? Because it's been pretty good talk through.
Actually, I think this is the record.
Oh, really?
We've had 2 days deliberations before.
So are we done?
I think so. Would anybody have any final comments before we turn it on? No, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll go from here.